Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by Glory middleweight Wayne Barrett. Wayne, how are you?
Good, Mike. What's going on?
Nothing much, Wayne. Nothing much. Life's good. Everything's going all right. Wayne, you got a fight coming up November 7th at Glory 18. Before we start talking about that fight, let's go back to the last time you were in action. Let's go back to Last Man Standing. Let's go back to June of this year. You won one fight and you lost one fight. You fought in the Glory World Championship middleweight tournament. The first fight that you had against Bogdan Stoica, you landed a beautiful KO. It brought me back memories of Fedor versus Andrei Arlovsky, the way you were able to catch him in midair when he tried to throw a flying knee. It was a beautiful knockout. That knockout actually landed on Glory's top 20 knockouts in the history of the promotion. It landed at number 13. I thought that was a little low. I thought it could have been higher.
Yeah,
do you like that position?
You know, just being, I was looking at the other knockouts, and I was like, that was actually a pretty beautiful knockout. But, you know, I'll just keep working my way up the ladder, man, and just keep putting on a good show. I'll get up there.
Okay. So if you're good with it, I'm good with it. Because I was like, that's a little low. That's a little low for me.
It was low. I honestly, I looked at the other knockouts that they showed, and I was like, who else did that? You know, like the timing and just the angle, and, you know, just how the knockout went. It was just, I was like, man, it should have been a lot higher, but, you know.
Mm-hmm. And some of the knockouts...
I don't want me to get my head too big too fast,
right.
That's all.
Right. One thing I saw in that top 20 special that Glory put out was some of the knockouts, they were more based on the story than the actual finish, because the Andy Risti David Curia fight, if you didn't know what had happened the first 4 rounds, you wouldn't really think that knockout was that great. And I got to be honest, I didn't really think that knockout was better than yours. So some of these were based more on the story than they actually were on the finish, which I thought was kind of weird.
And that's really what built most of those guys, most of those knockouts. It wasn't on sheer spectacular knockouts. It was more on the story, you know, like Andy Risti, you know, when he knocked out Petrosyan and Robin, you know, it was more like, wow, you know, like, look at who he knocked out, not how he knocked out, you know?
Right. Definitely. Now, your second fight, it was a rematch against Joe Schilling, the way the bracket played out. He won his fight, you won your fight, and you guys were matched up. It was a rematch. You guys fought at Glory 12 in November of 2013. And the second fight didn't go your way. It was a split decision. Joe Schilling got his hand raised that night. Do you think you won that fight? And looking back on it now, and even when you were in the moment after the fight, did you think you had done enough to get your hand raised?
Yeah, I think I did enough to win the second and the third round, but you know, so you know, I was in his hometown, and you know, I didn't push the action enough. You know, I will say that. You know, I could have finished him, but you know, I was being in a tournament, first professional tournament. I was very conservative. I was always thinking about the next fight, and you know, just we wanted to go out there and get the job done, but at the same time, try to be smart and not take too much damage. You know, because I was watching Artem. And he was, that's my son.
Yeah.
Watching Artem, and he was, you know, not taking too much damage throughout his fight. So I was really focused on just being fresh and being ready for him.
Mm-hmm. That's the tricky thing about tournaments. It's not the best fighter that always wins. It's the guy who takes the least amount of damage.
Yeah, it really is. It absolutely is. And I learned that, you know, it was definitely a learning experience. But you're absolutely right. It's not about, you know, the best fighter, because the best fighter could get hurt early, you know, and he's out of there. But the guy that takes the least amount of damage is the guy that's going to come out on top. And, you know, I think Artem had a little bit of an advantage, too. He was the only guy in the tournament who had a fight, you know, within like 8 months, because it was like 8 months between my fight with Joe and the tournament before I fought. But I think Artem fought about a month and a half before the tournament, you know, to get some of that rust off also. So I always, you know, when I heard that he was fighting, and I requested to fight, and Glory denied it. They just said, you know, that they want me to get hurt before the tournament, but they let Artem go. You know, I was just like, yeah, of course you're going to be sharp. You get some of that ring rust off, you know.
Right. What was the worst part about suffering the first loss of your career? Was it because it came against a guy who you had a little bit of heat with and you had previously defeated him early in your career? Or was it, the part about how you were eliminated from the tournament and you didn't get that shot at the title and you didn't get the big prize money? Or was it just the fact that you lost a fight? Because I remember you saying a big goal for you was to retire as an undefeated fighter, and obviously when you suffered that loss, that went down the drain. So what was the worst part about suffering the loss?
Yeah, I mean, the hardest part was, one, the loss and how it happened, and I don't want to jinx myself here, but, if I lose, I want to lose. I want to come out there, like beat up and, or someone to stop me, but to come out of there feeling good and, I saw everything that he did. I moved. It was just like, I could replay the whole fight, and I was like, this guy didn't even hit me with anything decisive. He did some little tricky cartwheel thing at the end, and people said, ooh, and I was like, what? He didn't even touch me with that.
Right.
I was just like, I don't know, I was just more frustrated in the way I lost. I'd rather went out on my shield than, be up there anticipating my hand to be raised and go through the heartbreak, of, that the scorecards. Like when I heard 30-27, I was like, who the hell is watching this fight?
Right.
That's when I knew it was over. Like, and people could see it in my face when they were announcing the scorecards. I was like 30-27 for Joe. I was like, wow. I was like, I just got robbed. And even he said it. He may not admit it now, but if anybody watches that fight and you just listen really close at the end, he's like, you got robbed.
Mm-hmm. How long did it take you to get over that loss? And also, how many times did you watch the fight?
I watched the fight the first week I got back. I watched the fight a couple times. And then I just kind of put it away. I didn't even want to watch it after that because I didn't want to get into a mode where I was that guy, where I was just like, I'm just watching everything, and I'm just moping and soaking. It took about a month or so, because I took some time off and just try to go and look back at myself and see what I did wrong and what I did right. And then after that, my coach said, get out the funk and let's get back in the gym, and then we just got back in the gym.
Oh, I see. Now, I'm just curious, how long did it take for that hematoma to go down?
That night, after the fight, it went down pretty well.
Oh.
My coach did a really good job. I mean, it was just, I don't know, man, that guy, Stoica, golly, man, that guy's bones are heavy. I'm not gonna lie to you. But no, that night, we just kept the ice on it. It went down. There was a little bit of a residual there. I still have like a small scar on the top of my head. But no, it went down. Maybe about 80% of it went down that night.
Oh, okay. Now that was the real big visual damage, no pun intended, but that was the major damage that we actually saw. But besides that, obviously we were talking about damage earlier when you fight in tournaments. Besides that, were there any bumps and bruises along the way?
Only little injuries that we all as fighters have prior coming in.
Right.
It wasn't anything new. It was just like already came in with like a little nagging injury, but it was nothing major. I was able to get the knockout with it, so it wasn't like, oh man, like this injury was keeping me away.
Oh, I see. Now, Wayne, correct me if I'm wrong. Now, this is just my opinion, and if I'm wrong, please tell me. If I'm way out there, correct me. But I think you're someone who hates to lose more than you like to win. Am I right?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, you summed that thing up really well. Like I said, in the last man standing, I was very relaxed, very confident, more cerebral. But I think going forward, I'm going to keep that part, but I'm going to add the part of me that I had as an amateur, which, I go in there and I finish people. One thing about me is I want to be known as an intelligent fighter and a guy that gets to finish because I want to finish someone. Basically what I'm trying to say is anyone can win a fight if you go in there and slug it out. You can close your eyes and a lucky shot hits. I want to finish the fight when I say I want to. If I go in there and I say, hey, he's weak, he drops his left hand, or he doesn't like these kind of shots, and I knock the guy out, with the game plan. I mean, I think to me, I'm a more complete fighter. But sometimes the fans just want to see the knockout, want to see that gritty dogfight kind of atmosphere, and I'm going to give him a good balance in between both, this next fight, getting in there, fighting hard, but still fighting intelligent, still moving, still doing my thing. But I'm going to let Jason Wilness know and all the other guys know that, I pack a punch, and I'm coming to really show them that they're not going to bully me.
Mm-hmm. Another one of my observations about you is I really think you're a true student of the game. I've seen your fights and I've heard your interviews, and I think that you know this game inside and out, whether it's the fighting side of things or the business side of things. So I'm just curious, how have you been able to pick up the game so fast?
It's not because I just started, man. I've as a child been fascinated with combat sports, with boxing. I don't know, man. I've always been into it. I mean, I've always been into martial arts. I've always studied people, and the thing is, I study not just to fight in. I study, I'm interested in the interviews of fighters. I'm interested in how a fighter acts after he wins. I'm interested in how a fighter acts after he loses. I watch the stories of guys that were on top and then they lost it all, and I try to look for any similarities or differences in there, so that I can notice if I'm making the same mistakes or if I'm doing the same correct actions that people that are winning do. So I'm a student of the game. My record may not show that, but I will literally just sit here, as a kid in high school. I'll do my homework. I'd be up 2 in the morning just watching YouTube, watching these guys. A lot of these guys that I'm fighting alongside in Glory, I've been up watching them, 4 or 5 hours. All I do is just keep watching. And I know the business, just through that, just through listening. I'm very... I'm good at analyzing things, and it's just part of my makeup. It's just part of my personality, and I think a lot of guys see me and they say, "Oh, he's only got 6 fights," but this is something that I've been doing since I was 10 years old.
The way you break down the competition and the way you look at fights, the way you dissect and analyze what a fighter does inside the ring and outside the ring, how he handles a win, how he handles a loss, it's a lot like a detective. And how fitting it would be like a detective, because your dad is a detective. How much has he rubbed off on you? And how much has that helped you when breaking down fights?
Every kid says, they don't want to be like their parents, I don't want to be like my dad.
Right.
But, truth be told, I can't help it. I heard my dad have a lot of conversations on the phone, or, his detective friends would come over, and, you can't help but overhear and, hear the conversations. And, as a kid, you're playing, but, the stuff, it seeps in. Like they say, you always got to be careful what you say around kids. It's true, because I'm playing, but I hear the conversation and I hear what they're talking about. They're talking about how they caught guys, or, they know that this guy is lying, and, how they know, and in the interview process, what they're doing. And I just kind of, I was just like, I'm playing with my video games, but, I learned. I was learning, and I heard, and I remembered, what they were looking for and how they broke people down. And, it did rub off on me. I can't, I hate saying it, but, but it did. My dad, I'm a lot like him, even if I didn't want to be like him, I am.
Mm-hmm. This fight at Glory 18 is going to be your 7th pro fight. At this point in your career, where did you think you'd be at 7 fights into it?
To be honest, I decided last year to be a professional fighter, and I said, hey, I'll give it 2 years and, see where it goes. And I am leaps and bounds ahead of where I am. I thought I was going to do about 11 fights, just in some no-name promotions, maybe get $500 a fight if I'm lucky, and, hopefully probably then transition into MMA, and that's where I'll make my real money. And then, lo and behold, Glory was there. I think just the timing. I really believe in destiny. I believe in, in karma and the law of attraction. And I think once I dedicated myself to the thing that I was always under the radar. I've always sparred with like professional guys. I've sparred with some of the top guys that were in the UFC a lot. A lot of people know me behind the scenes, but no one knew who I was outside. I was always that guy, that guy that they would spar and say like, wow, man, like you're really good. But I wasn't there yet. I was like, thanks, I appreciate it. But this career has taken off faster than I ever thought. But the talent, I always knew I had the talent. Mm-hmm. I just never pulled the trigger, early in my career. It's just that things all came into place. I had the right coach. I had the right, my body was healed. I had a bad car accident when I was younger, so it was, it kept me from thinking that I was ready to go pro because I had a nagging injury. But now it's completely healed. I'm ready, and everything just fell into place. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm really destined to be doing what I'm doing, to be honest with you.
Right. You just answered like six, my next six questions. A bunch of my questions is I'm saying, that was going to be my next question. This is it's meant to be because the timing is just perfect. It's crazy. You can't even write this in a movie. If someone wrote this in a movie, it would be not believable, but it's a true story.
No, it is, man. It is. I don't think about it, but whenever someone asks me that question, I can't help but just say, like, man, I'm just destined to be doing what I'm doing. And a lot of guys don't understand it, but I've been fighting this for a long time, man. I try to follow society and be a corporate guy, and I just never felt like I was doing what I wanted to do. I was just like, this is. It kept calling me. I would go back to work, and then I would take a fight. I would train. I'd feel great, and then after the fight, I'd go back to work, and and I was just like, I just feel more alive when I'm fighting, and here I am today, man, living my dream. So I'm pretty happy.
Right, definitely. Wayne, who's the face of kickboxing in America? Am I talking to him right now? Are you the face of American kickboxing, or do you think it's still a wide open race?
I think it's wide open. To be honest, I think I'm probably the guy most on fire just because I'm always so underestimated, and I'm doing things at such a young pace. I mean, the thing is that what I believe in, and is that I will be the face of America, because you have to understand, I came to Glory with only one professional fight,
right,
outside of all my fights. Mm-hmm. I am basically a Glory fighter. I am developed under Glory. They put me on the big stage from my second fight up until now. I don't think anyone else can say that. Like, they had numerous amounts of fights before they came to Glory.
Mm-hmm. And Glory even claims that. They even claim that your first pro fight was under the Glory banner, because it says you're 5-1 overall and 5-1 in Glory. So they're even claiming that.
Hey, if they want to claim it, that's fine. I mean, but yeah, I mean, that's where the story is. If you want to say, like, hey, you got an American made, made on the Glory. I mean, I think that I am that guy. I think the story for me would be a lot stronger than a lot of these other guys. Glory can say, hey, we came here to America, we gave a guy a chance, and he blossomed under our banner. And I think I am that guy.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm just curious, how did they find you?
Just randomly, I was training with Jarrell Big Baby Miller.
Right.
I think they reached out to him, and he was focusing on boxing at the time. Mm-hmm. And the boxing coach at the time just said, "Hey, I've got a 185er. What do you think?" And they're like, "Okay, we'll get back to you." And then I guess they thought, "Oh, he's got one fight. Michael Lemieux is going to run all over him." And they didn't know that we train seriously, and they were like, okay, yeah, we'll give you a fight against the undefeated guy, Mike Lemieux. And I was like, okay. They didn't think I was going to say yes, and I said, yeah, we'll take it.
Okay. I was just curious about that, because obviously Glory 9 was in New York. You're a New York guy. It makes sense, but I just wanted to get the story from the horse's mouth, so to speak. So
yeah.
I was just curious about that. Now, coming up, Glory 18, you're going to be making your return to the ring. You're fighting Jason Wilness. What are your thoughts about him as an opponent?
I think Jason does a lot of good things. I think he does. I think he's got good boxing. I think he does well, but I don't think he's on my level. And that's just what I think. I did my homework on this guy, watched him a lot. I think for Dutch style, he's a good boxer, but he's not a good boxer for here in America. So he's aggressive first round. He's got a lot to prove. He's very aggressive, especially in the first round. So I don't expect anything less of him. And then he gasses out after he puts all that energy in the first round, because he tries to make a statement that first round to kind of like get you to not fire back. Mm-hmm. And then he kind of like dwindles down and tries to pace himself second and third. But You know, I watched him. I see where he's got some holes in his games, and I think when I hit him, you know, he's going to realize that, you know, I'm not your standard Dutch fighter that's going to tap to get the leg kick. I'm going to bring a lot of heat in my hands and a lot of heat when I kick him as well.
Mm-hmm. Was Jason Wilness, was he the first name Glory threw at you when they were looking to get you a fight? Was he the first name that came up and you just said yes, or were there other guys in play? Because a lot of people thought that maybe you'd get someone in the top 5, like a Simon Marcus or someone like that. Was Wilness the first name they offered, or were there other fighters that they were thinking about matching you up with for Glory 18?
No, you know what, man? It was he's about the third guy that they threw at me. I don't know what kept happening. Something kept happening with the opponents, and you know, it didn't really matter. You know, he said yes, and you know, we just kind of go from there. I think I think an underlying thing is that a lot of these guys, you know, a lot of people are not in a rush to lose to a guy with just 6 fights. You know,
right?
So you know, I'm dangerous, and a lot of these guys know that. So, you know, no one's going to be in a rush to just say, like, oh, yeah, I'll get in there with the American. You know, they're like, well, you know, let me see him a couple more. You know, I'm sure they're all like, I want to see him fight a couple more times.
Right. Now, what do you think his camp is telling him to do against you in this fight?
Oh, pressure me, push me back, get me going back, put me in a corner, you know, just keep pressuring me, kick my legs. You know, they think I don't check leg kicks, stuff like that. You know, just regular stuff. I mean, I've been a mover my whole career, and I've gone up against guys like this every time. You know, every guy thinks that, you know, I can't take pressure. Every guy thinks, you know, you're going to kick me in my legs, and I'm not, because I'm a boxer, quote unquote, and I'm going to crumble. And it's not going to happen. You know, I'm a full martial artist. You know, if I don't check a kick, it's because I'm setting something else up. You know, and I believe in that. You know, I'll feel the kick. If the kick's not strong enough, then I won't need to check it. You know, because I know what I'm doing. But other than that, it's just they're going to force. You know, he's been trying some new things. You know, but he's going to come out kicking. He's going to come out, you know, aggressive and. But I think he puts more grunt than he actually has power on his shots. And you know, I'm going to prove that in exactly 1 week from today. That, you know, I'm a better boxer. I'm absolutely going to use the whole ring. And, you know, as aggressive as he wants to be, go to the body, go to the head, leg kick me, I'm going to still come out on top.
Mm-hmm. What exactly is at stake for you in this fight? Is there a possibility, if you get the win here, they'll offer you Artem Levin for the title?
I don't think about that, to be honest. A lot of guys have asked me that. I just need to do my job. I need to win. There's really, every fight to me is just a fight. You know, I let the media, let the fans put all that extra toppings on it. To me, it's just another human being. I got a job to do, and the job is to win. You know, whatever comes after the win is a win. You know, I really employ the vision that you're only as good as your last fight. You gotta show and prove every time you get in there. Like, no one cares about what you did in the past in this business. It's all about the now. You know, so I'm just living in the now. I never think about that. You know, if a title shot comes and they feel like I deserve it, then that's great. If not, you know, I'll just keep fighting.
Mm-hmm. I see. Now, since we're a week out from the fight, what's your schedule like from now until the fight?
Still good. Training, sparred yesterday. Going to do some training today. I mean, I keep training and sparring, and you know, start cutting down start doing a weight cut, which is going really okay right now. And that's it. You know, just keep stretching, keep moving, stay loose. Start doing a lot more mental exercises, because the fight is just mental. You know, start imagining him, you know, in front of me. You know, imagining just being overwhelmed by him and being and pushing forward. You know, I always think the worst in my head. You know, just I'm losing, I'm down, and you know, he's knocking me down. But you know, the one thing in my mind, I just need to condition it to get up, to keep going, no matter what happens.
Mm-hmm. At this stage in the camp, how are you feeling in terms of, you know, with the fight being right around the corner? Are you one of those guys who gets anxious at this point in time? Like, hey, let's just get November 7th here already. Like, I'm ready to do the thing.
No, I mean, I don't rush it and I don't delay it. I just accept it. The closer it gets to the fight, the more dialed in I get. I actually become better with less time. You know, like too much time, too much thinking, too much game planning, too much what ifs. You know, a week from the fight, now, you know, I had 10 different game plans. Now I've got the solidified game plans that I'm absolutely sure about. Oh. You know, So, as it gets closer, I dial in. And that's the thing that I can do that I think a lot of people don't see yet, is that when it comes on to showtime, I show up. That's my thing. That is my talent, is that I know how to perform on the big stage. Like when the lights first hit me in Glory 9, I didn't shell up. It woke me up. Like I woke up. I felt like I belonged here. It felt natural. Like, I got in that stage and I saw the cameras and I was like, holy cow, this is what I wanted my whole life. And that's what happens every time I step in, even if I'm nervous or I'm shaky at weigh-ins and I'm like got butterflies doing the stare down. I mean, the minute my 2 feet hit that mat in that ring, I am completely cerebral. I am completely confident. I am completely comfortable.
You're obviously a student of the game, and you're a very big fan of combat sports. When you look at this Glory 18 card, besides your fight, what's the fight on here that you're most interested in seeing?
I want to see the heavyweight tournament, to be honest with you. Really impressed by Ilunga. Brian Collett's one of my boys here in America, but I don't know, David Ilunga, man, he's got that relaxed, deadly style. I think he's angry. He feels like I think that he's going to destroy that heavyweight division, but I think it's all, you got in BC, you got the guy from Africa. It's going to be crazy. I mean, that's the fight I want to see. Obviously, everyone wants to see the main event, but between David Carrier and Robin Van Rooselman, I think that's going to be an exciting fight. This is about the third or fourth time these guys are fighting. I saw him in Glory 12 when I fought Joe, and I thought David did enough to win. I think kind of the same thing happened to him that happened to me. People wanted to see a certain kind of rematch between Robin and Petrosyan, so Robin got the nod. But I think David did more to win that fight, and I think now that he's got the belt, it's going to be an amazing fight.
Mm-hmm. This tournament at Glory 18 is wide open. I think any one of these guys could win that tournament. They're all heavy-handed. It's going to be very exciting. Daniel Ilunga.
I think that four-man tournament, that heavyweight contender tournament, is going to be a lot of knockouts.
Yeah.
I think every fight's going to go down with a knockout.
Yeah, everyone's heavy-handed in there, and you mentioned Daniel Ilunga. He was the It's Showtime champion for a very long time, and I think that really eats at him that he's not the top dog in Glory, so I'm sure we'll see the best version of him that we've ever seen, because I think he's really motivated to try to get a belt back around his waist on November 7th.
I think he is the black sheep. He is the guy that a lot of people have been kind of like staying away from, but I think he's gonna put a lot of guys on notice, man. He's gonna put a lot of guys on notice.
Yeah, it's a great card, and we're getting it on Spike TV for free. This is great.
For free?
Yeah, this is great. God bless Spike TV. Now, is there anything you're looking to prove, and is there anything you're looking to showcase in this fight?
No, nothing to prove, man. Just gonna be me. What do? I win. I know I'm sorry. I know I can win fights, and that's it. I'm a winner, and it's and I'm learning. I mean, the loss helps also, because when you're doing this Cinderella story, and then you forget certain things, and I had to remember about the political part of fighting. Where it's like we're performers, we're athletes, but then there's also the third formula of fighting that you can't control, which is the politics.
Right.
And the only way you can control the politics is by winning and knocking someone out. So, that's my goal, and that's the only thing I'm going to show, is that I'm here to control every aspect of the fight game.
Right. Well, tonight's Halloween, so I'm just curious, how old are the kids, and are they going out for trick-or-treating tonight?
Yeah, man. No, these little ones are going out. Yeah, my son is going out. They're going to be ninjas.
Okay.
So they're chilling out. My son's going to be 4 actually on Monday, and I fly out on Tuesday for this.
Okay.
So we're gonna have a good time, man.
Okay, sounds good. Well, Wayne, real quick before I let you go, do you have any sponsors you'd like to thank, and is there anything you'd like to say to the fans?
Yeah, definitely. Adidas Combat Sports, they got behind me. Really thankful to them. One of my most loyal sponsors, Rock and Wellness, Fight Lab, all great guys. And one of my favorite clothing brands that I love to wear, just because I love the name of it, Prove People Wrong. Those guys got behind me as well. And just everyone that believes in me, and people that don't know me, that are giving me a chance, whether you like me or whether you don't. I mean, I'm just here to do what I can for the sport. So, thank you to all the fans and everyone that's supporting kickboxing, and thank you to guys like yourself that's covering kickboxing.
Wayne, thank you for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it. Good luck November 7th at Glory 18 against Jason Wilness.
Thanks a lot, guys.